Welcome back to Grit and Grace. In this episode, I actually wanted to share something that I was reminded of this past week. And so I thought I'd open with a question. Um, have you ever stopped to look back at where or what you've come from and all that you've achieved along the way? Because I was reminded of this past week. I was commentating at a junior swim festival all weekend, and I was surrounded by little ones from age 8 to 12, and they were so excited to swim, so excited to race, so passionate about the sport. It was so evident. Um, Dancing behind the block, having so much fun while racing, being surrounded by friends, getting excited when they got faster, and then if they didn't, or even if they did, how can I improve? How could I get better? Um, and I was reminded that I was once that little. And I had a heart and mind filled with big dreams and big goals that the scariest thing, believed that I could achieve them. No one was going to get in my way. I was setting myself these goals, and I wanted to achieve them, and I was going to achieve them. And I mean, I can speak from a sporting perspective. But there are other things in my life that I've also achieved, so it doesn't just apply to sport. It doesn't just apply to achievements in the pool. It goes beyond the pool. Like I mentioned in the first episode of this podcast, this is to do with life. It's to do with sport, and just the journey of everything combined. So I was just reminded that when I was little, I had envisioned myself going to the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. I was 10 years old, and I had set myself this dream, and I seriously didn't know what it entailed, the requirements needed for qualification and selection. Heck, I had no idea. I mean, what a world it actually is. I'm living it now. I've seen it. I've been exposed to it. I think if I knew what it really entailed, I probably wouldn't have dared to dream that big. But nonetheless, little Becky, had decided she was going to go to Olympic Games, and my dream was big and it was scary, but I was on a mission to reach my dream. Um, and like I said, I believed I could, and I did. I achieved it. Um, but I was just reminded, the older I've become, or the older I get, and you start to achieve more. I don't know if it's just me, but I think I often forget to stop and look back and see what else I've achieved in my life. I think always see as an athlete, you always just seem to keep raising the bar, and I mean that's the mind of an athlete. You never fully satisfied with your last race. You always want more. You always want better. You climb out the pool after doing a massive swim and say, "Oh, but I could have done that 50 better. Or I could have done that turn better." There's always something, and that comes with the quality of being an elite athlete. But I don't think I actually stop enough and look back at everything that I've achieved. Um, all the growth, the achievements, the setbacks, the victories, the tears, and the joy that go into this journey. It all shapes the person that you become. And I mean, these little kids were just so excited to race. And I remember that feeling. I mean, I still get excited to race, but it's at a different level now. And so I was just reminded, to stop back and look and see what you've achieved. I mean, I wanted to go to Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games, and if I actually stop now and look back, I wanted to go to an Olympic Games, and now I've been to two. I've competed at the highest level for my country. I've had to move cities from Cape Town to Durban. I've had to move countries from South Africa to New Zealand to train. Little did I know what would be ahead. But I think, don't stop enough and look back at all that I've achieved throughout my lifetime, And like I said, it's not just to do with sport. Moving countries was probably one of the hardest things to do, and moving cities at the time was really hard. But it's all these like stepping stones that lead you to becoming the person that you are. And yeah, I just wanted to indulge in this, and the lesson that I took out of literally watching these little kids. I think the bottom line was that these kids still had the wonder, the awe, and the joy that comes with their dreams. And not that we don't, but I think we often forget about that feeling. It's almost like the older we become, the more pressure we land up putting on ourselves. And, pressure is a privilege from external factors and everything. I've always learned that pressure is a privilege. But, I can speak for myself. I land up putting pressure on myself to perform. And that's a good quality to have because it produces excellence. But children live in the moment. They take captive of everything that's going on around them. And I think we often forget that feeling, that awe and that wonder and the joy that comes out in pursuing the dreams and achieving the dreams. I read something the other day that said, adulthood is defined by external pressures. And that's why I think, the older you become, the more pressure you land up putting on yourself. And we often get stuck and don't allow ourselves to live in that awe and that wonder. And then I just was reminded of the story in the book of Joshua in the Bible. And it's a beautiful story about the people of God, and they're on a journey to the promised land. This promised land was flowing with milk and honey. It was a land that, think about it, they're in the desert. They don't have anything. They were gifted and provided for by God, but this land of milk and honey was a land flowing of so much that they could just dream about. It was the land of their dreams. They were on mission towards their dream. And there's this beautiful scene in the story where they've been through hardship, they've been through victories. The sea split, manna fell from heaven. God had provided in miraculous ways. But there's this one scene that really resonates with me, and it's when the Israelites, they come to the Jordan River, and now there's this river that is flowing. It's too strong to even cross, and they landed up having the faith to put their foot in the water, and the water stopped flowing, and so they were able to cross this river. So again, God provided them with a victory. But what they did after that really resonates with me a little bit more. And they had picked up 12 stones for the 12 tribes, and they landed up stacking these stones. And they stacked the stones in that spot where they had crossed the river to remind the future generations that ever came across that area of land again, that that's where they had crossed the river. That's where that victory had happened. And I read another thing that one said we almost need to have like a trophy cabinet of all of our stacked stones, right? So like every little victory, whether it be small, whether it be big, any victory in your life, that's a stone that you can stack, because it starts building into the person that you are. So whether it's a pebble or a rock or a little stone or even a boulder, there's a place in that like trophy cabinet for all your stones. And I say trophy cabinet, I mean in sport you get medals and you get trophies and stuff, and so often people have a big display in their house of all the victories that have happened in their life in the sport, and it's there to remember all the wins that came with their journey. And so we almost have to have this trophy cabinet where we stack our own stones in remembrance of everything that we've achieved. And so I was almost reminded that, yes, I've stacked those stones, and I've seen that I've accomplished so much in my life. I've grown in so many aspects of my life. I've achieved many of my dreams in the sport, but not every single one of them yet. And that's me raising the bar, right? Like that's what leads to the growth and the excellence part of your life. And but I was reminded I must almost go back to those stones that have got a little bit dusty and whatever, and polish my little trophies and polish all the stones that I had, all the victories, and be reminded of all that I have achieved. And like I said, by no means am I saying don't raise the bar, because that's exactly what you have to do. Keep raising the bar, keep pursuing, keep being in that place of awe and wonder and dreaming those big, scary dreams, and believing that you'll achieve them, but never ever stop looking back at, all that you have achieved, because it almost fuels just that when you're walking this journey, it almost fuels that those stepping stones. You can use your stones that that they stack. You don't have to stack them. They can almost be little stepping stones into what's next, into the dream and the land, the promised land that's ahead. And I almost just want to leave you just like with this one thought of cultivate, because this is what I was reminded of. I need to cultivate a place of wonder and of awe, because there's so much more that you need to achieve in your life. There's so much more that you need to press on to go and grab and to go and get. So that was on my heart. It was so evident this past week of, Bex, you've achieved so much, but don't forget what you've achieved. Now go and achieve more. Go and achieve even greater things, but from a place of awe and a place of wonder and a place of belief in yourself. And so I just thought I'd share that with you guys. And like I said, this podcast is to share what's on my heart and what's on my mind, lessons that I've learned, lessons that I'm learning, whether it be with sport or life. I think it's probably both, because that is my life. But there's just so much to share. So thank you for listening to episode 2, and I sending all the love in the world wherever you are.